Read the passage and then answer the questions that follow. Excerpt from The Capture of Father Time by L. Frank Baum. Jim, the son of an Arizona cowboy, thinks he won't have the opportunity to practice his lasso skills while visiting his uncle in the city. But then the butcher asks Jim to ride one of his horses to a pasture in the countryside. He rode through the streets demurely enough, but on reaching the open country roads, his spirits broke forth in wild jubilation, and urging the butcher's horse to full gallop, he dashed away in true cowboy fashion. Then he wanted still more liberty, and letting down the bars that led into a big field, he began riding over the meadow and throwing his lasso at imaginary cattle, while he yelled and whooped to his heart's content. Suddenly, on making a long cast with his lasso, the loop caught upon something and rested about 3 feet from the ground, while the rope drew taut and nearly pulled Jim from his horse. This was unexpected. More than that, it was wonderful, for the field seemed barren of even a stump. Jim's eyes grew big with amazement, but he knew he had caught something when a voice cried out, "Here, let go, I say. Can't you see what you've done?" No, Jim couldn't see. Nor did he intend to let go until he found out what was holding the loop of the lasso. So he resorted to an old trick his father had taught him, and putting the butcher's horse to a run, began riding in a circle around the spot where his lasso had caught. As he thus drew nearer and nearer his quarry, he saw the rope coil up. Yet it looked to be coiling over nothing but air. One end of the lasso was made fast to a ring in the saddle. When the rope was almost wound up and the horse began to pull away and snort with fear, Jim dismounted. Holding the reins of the bridle in one hand, he followed the rope and an instant later saw an old man caught fast in the coils of the lasso. His head was bald and uncovered, but long white whiskers grew down to his waist. About his body was thrown a loose robe of fine white linen. In one hand he bore a great scythe, and beneath the other arm he carried an hourglass. While Jim gazed wonderingly upon him, this venerable old man spoke in an angry voice. "Now then, get that rope off as fast as you can. You've brought everything on this earth to a standstill by your foolishness. Well, what are you staring at? Don't you know who I am?" "No," Jim said stupidly. "Well, I'm Father Time. Now make haste and set me free, if you want the world to run properly." "How did I happen to catch you?" asked Jim, without making a move to release his captive. "I don't know. I've never been caught before," growled Father Time, "but I suppose it was because you were foolishly throwing your lasso at nothing." "I didn't see you," said Jim. "Of course you didn't. I'm invisible to the eyes of human beings unless they get within 3 feet of me, and I take care to keep more than that distance away from them. That's why I was crossing this field where I supposed no one would be, and I should have been perfectly safe had it not been for your beastly lasso. Now then," he added crossly, "are you going to get that rope off?" "Why should I?" asked Jim. "Because everything in the world stopped moving the moment you caught me. I don't suppose you want to make an end of all business and pleasure and war and love and misery and ambition and everything else, do you? Not a watch has ticked since you tied me up here like a mummy." Jim laughed. It was really funny to see the old man wound round and round with coils of rope from his knees up to his chin. "It'll do you good to rest," said the boy. "From all I've heard, you lead a rather busy life." "Indeed I do," replied Father Time, with a sigh. "I'm due in Kamchatka this very minute, and to think one small boy is upsetting all my regular habits." "Too bad," said Jim, with a grin. "But since the world has stopped anyhow, it won't matter if it takes a little longer recess. As soon as I let you go, time will fly again. Where are your wings?" "I haven't any," answered the old man. "That is a story cooked up by someone who never saw me. As a matter of fact, I move rather slowly." Then he swung the old man, bound as he was, upon the back of the butcher's horse, and getting into the saddle himself, started back toward town, one hand holding his prisoner and the other guiding the reins. He rode on until he reached the city, where all the people stood in exactly the same positions they were in when Jim lassoed Father Time. Stopping in front of a big dry goods store, the boy hitched his horse and went in. The clerks were measuring out goods and showing patterns to the rows of customers in front of them, but everyone seemed suddenly to have become a statue. There was something very unpleasant in this scene, and a cold shiver began to run up and down Jim's back, so he hurried out again. He mounted the horse again and rode up the street. As he passed the shop of his friend the butcher, he noticed several pieces of meat hanging outside. "I'm afraid that meat'll spoil," he remarked. "It takes time to spoil meat," answered the old man. This struck Jim as being queer, but true. "It seems time meddles with everything," said he. "Yes, you've made a prisoner of the most important personage in the world," groaned the old man, "and you haven't enough sense to let him go." Jim did not reply, and soon they came to his uncle's house, where he again dismounted. The street was filled with teams of people, but all were motionless. His two little cousins were just coming out of the gate on their way to school, with their books and slates underneath their arms, so Jim had to jump over the fence to avoid knocking them down. "There's one thing I don't understand," said he. "What's that?" asked Father Time. "Why is it that I'm able to move around while everyone else is froze up?" "That is because I'm your prisoner," answered the other. "You can do anything you wish with time now, but unless you are careful, you'll do something you will be sorry for." Number 1. The following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. He rode through the streets demurely enough, but on reaching the open country roads, his spirit broke forth into wild jubilation, and urging the butcher's horse to full gallop, he dashed away in true cowboy fashion. What does the word jubilation mean in the sentence? A. Boldness. B. Joyfulness. C. Playfulness. D. Sadness. Part B. Which quotation from the passage is another example of jubilation as it is defined in Part A? A. Urging the butcher's horse to full gallop, he dashed away. Paragraph 1. B. Then he wanted still more liberty. Paragraph 2. C. He yelled and whooped to his heart's content. Paragraph 2. D. This was unexpected. Paragraph 4. Number 2. How does the use of the word demurely in paragraph 1 convey Jim's feelings? A. Jim feels limited while riding his horse in the city. B. Jim feels frustrated that his lasso skills are not appreciated in the city. C. Jim feels strong when he is riding his horse in the city or in the country. D. Jim feels angry about the way people in the city look at him riding his horse. Number 3. Read the sentence from paragraph 18. Not a watch has ticked since you tied me up here like a mummy. What is the phrase "like a mummy" referring to in this sentence? A. Father Time's age. B. Father Time's feelings. C. The importance of time. D. The tightness of the lasso. Number 4. Read the sentence from paragraph 26. There was something very unpleasant in this scene, and a cold shiver began to run up and down Jim's back, so he hurried out again. How does this sentence help develop the plot? A. It builds suspense by setting the mood of the story. B. It supports the plot through the author's characterization of Jim. C. It advances the plot because of the hurried nature of Jim's actions. D. It emphasizes Jim's shy nature, thus impacting the overall tone of the story. Number 5. The following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A. How does Jim respond to Father Time's request to be released from the lasso? A. He begins to tease Father Time. B. He makes a deal with Father Time. C. He refuses to listen to Father Time. D. He becomes angry with Father Time. Part B. Which quotation from the passage supports the answer to part A? A. Here, let go, I say. Can't you see what you've done? Paragraph 5. B. While Jim gazed wonderingly upon him, this venerable old man spoke in an angry voice. Paragraph 9. C. Jim laughed. It was really funny to see the old man wound round and round with coils of rope from his knees up to his chin. Paragraph 19. D. Yes, you've made a prisoner out of the most important personage in the world, groaned the old man, and you haven't enough sense to let him go again. Paragraph 32. Number 6. Which quotation from the passage supports the inference that Jim is adventurous? A. Then he wanted still more liberty, and letting down the bars that led into a big field, he began riding over the meadow and throwing his lasso at imaginary cattle. Paragraph 2. B. So he resorted to an old trick his father had taught him, and putting the butcher's horse to a run, began riding in a circle around the spot where his lasso had caught. Paragraph 6. C. He rode on until he reached the city, where all the people stood in exactly the same positions they were in when Jim lassoed Father Time. Paragraph 25. D. Jim did not reply, and soon they came to his uncle's house, where he again dismounted. The street was filled with teams and people, but all were motionless. Paragraph 33. Number 7. Which quotation from the passage foreshadows the possible effects of Jim's actions? A. The loop caught upon something and rested about 3 feet from the ground. Paragraph 3. B. Jim's eyes grew big with amazement, but he knew he had caught something. Paragraph 4. C. Riding in a circle around the spot where his lasso had caught. Paragraph 6. D. The horse began to pull away and snort with fear. Paragraph 7. Number 8. Choose 2 statements which should be included in an accurate summary of the passage. A. Jim witnesses time standing still as he rides through areas of the city. B. Jim circles his catch many times, wrapping it in rope. C. Jim casts his lasso and captures Father Time. D. Father Time is bald with long white whiskers. E. Jim casts his lasso at imaginary cattle.